Uduasha city, where the sun is a mirror and the moon a shadow. 800 years ago, the gates of death were broken by the Emperor Immortal. The 5 key-bearers, however, had already unlocked them and walked right through. It is in Uduasha city they dwell. Now, the ghost field breathes next to our reality, lit by the eternal flame of the well of Udu. It is a second skin, a place where thought and will struggle against gravity and light. In other places, the dead congregate in the ghost field, but in Uduasha, the well city, the hell city, they fall straight into the flames. See its glittering districts: Kshitijpur, where the rich plot to buy the horizon; Bunda West, where the refugees of 2 different nations flock; and Pasarhandu, the vertical maze of market and murder. And here is Udepat, where the ceaseless temple resides. Its inhabitants, a family, a snake, and a god. The temple has stood since before the gods of this world were forgotten. Watch as it turns the wheels of revolution. Welcome to Desperate Attune, an actual play podcast about people who take risks so they can survive against the odds. Hello and welcome back to Desperate Attune. I'm Tree, I'm your GM. With me are my players, Klow.
Hello.
Joan. Sorry, Emma. I'm so sorry.
Hi, hello.
We'll just delete that bit, don't worry.
Yeah. Joan, Emma, who is playing Joan. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I don't know why. I'm sorry, Emma. I think it's because you just both have very typical white girl names.
I know. I was about to say.
But I regret this because Emma is my friend and Joan is a made-up person, so you shouldn't really get them confused with one another. Emma, who's playing Joan.
Hi, hello.
Prince, who is playing Vickers.
Hello.
And Aadiyat, who is playing Abbas.
Yes, hello.
And of course, Klow, this session is going to be playing Freya and not Miraz. This is that last session, the crew went into the heart of the Kingfisher Grotto, the Sanctum Sanctorum of the forgotten god, the Kingfisher, which apparently preys on people by convincing them that they are the rightful rulers of Iruvia, or in Freya's case, of Scotland, and empowering them to go and conquer those places that they claim to be the rulers of. The crew had sent their 2 wards, or rather they had sent one of their wards, Maud, into the hands of the Kingfisher, but having realized that this was in fact a terrible idea, they chased after Maud, along with Maud's sibling Johannes, in order to rescue them. Following an explosive confrontation in the grotto incited by Abbas's use of a fragment of a fallen star in order to set the Kingfisher on fire, the crew managed to get out with their hides intact, less so some of their sanity. And in fact, I tell a lie, because Miraz's hide was very much not intact, which is why he will be taking a little bit of a break in order to recuperate from his wounds, and Freya is going to take his place while he's getting better. And I would be remiss to not mention, of course, that the very important thing that also happened in the last session was that Joan ate the Kingfisher. And we will see what that means, not just in this session, but probably the rest of the campaign. So I can't wait for that. Hi, everyone. How are you doing?
I think it's also worth mentioning the possession by the shrine builder.
Oh yes, correct. There were just so many things happening that I forgot that another incredibly insane thing happened, which is of course that Miraz was briefly possessed by a previous incarnation of his called the Shrine Builder, who was the first devotee, or so they say, of the Eternal One, and in fact built the temple. And probably did other things as well, because while being possessed by the god, Freya immediately recognized the entity possessing Miraz as the shrine builder. These effects continue to linger, and we will see more of that as well in the days, weeks, months to come, both in real life and in the game.
What a session.
Yes. Okay, so where we saw the temple last was that Zajudan had gone off to see Miraz, who was recuperating in the care of the healer Amitabh. And I think, in fact, Zajudan has been regularly going from the temple to be with his son because he's worried. And he has also, kind of appreciated the fact that this is a somewhat of something to do. Like, he's been at loose ends for the last few months, and he does very well with a purpose, and he's very worried. But I think what that means is that the temple is kind of bereft of Zajudan's presence as Miraz recuperates. And I guess we open on this empty courtyard where normally Zajudan would be having breakfast, but he's not there. What is everyone doing, I guess, a day or two after this incredible series of occurrences?
I know what Vickers is doing. I've already done my free downtime actions. I did that last session.
Yes,
But
that is true.
Vickers is exercising. I think with this empty courtyard being available to her, she is working out. And this is not like for any real practical purpose. This is literally just her working the stress off. Because she doesn't have Miraz around, and she is, that more than anything, is very stressful to her. Obviously, he's being hospitalized. And so having done all of her praying and her meditations and whatnot, we saw her last session praying and communing with the Chokroborty, and then she realized that this may be all well and good, but it doesn't get my mind off things. And so she is working out to like an unhealthy degree, I think, right now, just to get her mind off of things.
Excellent. What about everyone else?
I think I'll go last.
Mm-hmm. Actually, yeah, I'm curious about Abbas. Now, I don't think you have ever used the ritual that you used in the last session before, right? This is the first time you've done something like this. What is Abbas's mood now that he knows that he can do something like this?
I think his mood might be a little apprehensive because it's like an adrenaline rush as well, right? Maybe just a very prolonged adrenaline rush, that's proportional to what he's done. He's a bit twitchy, right? A bit. I think that's what he's right now. It's a bit twitchy, and also because what he's done there is very dangerous, and he did it out of desperation, and I think he's a little bit maybe a bit afraid of his own power right now.
Yeah, but I mean, the other thing that has happened is that you've been shunned by the avatar of your god. And I imagine that is also taking its own toll on you.
Yeah, that is a project that we should all work on, I think. The whole getting back into our god's good graces.
Right, because last session as well, the avatar, I think very clearly told us to get on with the temple restoration project, or else he'll be very displeased. Figured that's what we were going to do. I think, in terms of what's up us mind, practically is that since the temple restoration project has a timeline now, and that's something he doesn't actually want to happen. His plan going into this is to figure out what it is that Begum Boshundhara and her group actually want. What is their actual plan?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're going to see that very shortly, right? Joan, what is your mood now regarding the temple and your place in it? Now that the presence of the snake is nowhere to be felt. You cannot see it, you can't smell it, you can't hear it, right? It seems as if it has completely disappeared off the face of the earth.
Joan has gone searching. We see, I think, how it is morning And there is the empty Sanctum Sanctorum that sits utterly, like, almost bottomless and quiet. But at the bottom of it, she has been searching for any hint of its passage or where it might have gone. And now in the morning, we see her waking up there, having fallen asleep. Her mood, I think, is that she's conflicted, seems too weak of a word. On the one hand, there is all this supernatural nonsense that has happened, and anyone who would look at her would see that she has this kind of struck dumb look in her eyes that had been fading away over the last few months and has now returned. And on the other hand, the absence of the holy presence in the temple has made her doubt why she came here and why she devoted herself to it so completely. It seems almost like an irrational obsession.
The presence of the kingfisher in you, which has no agency of its own, but does still persist in you, is itself almost like hungry to jump out of you and claim this space that has been left behind. I mean, even if you wanted to do that, you wouldn't know how to. But what is your reaction to that kind of, like, it's almost a yearning?
She doesn't react to it because she doesn't recognize that it's the kingfisher. If
Right.
an alien being puts a thought into your mind, you will not be able to tell that it's another person's thought, or at least in this case, it feels like it's her own yearning.
Yeah, makes sense.
And perhaps with the snake having stormed away in a huff almost, that's what it feels like. She might even feel that it's justified.
And lastly, Freya. I think that, in fact, when Zajidan goes to the healer, he goes with Maud because Johannes is also at Amitabh's because they have, like, also suffered quite a terrible injury or series of injuries, including ghost possession. And so, though you see Maud in the mornings and evenings, and it's not like Zajidan has completely disappeared either, for the most part, you are left to your own devices. So what have you been doing?
After spending a day or two, or maybe a bit more, basically curled up in a ball, Freya has, for the first time, decided to go out on her own, kind of blinking into the, what do we call it? The mirror light? I guess we can call it the mirror light, the daylight equivalent.
Makes sense.
And you can see that gears have started to turn in her head, and she kind of like moves furtively through the alleys of Udaput and heads towards Bundervest to work on some downtime actions. If that's okay. Nice to start with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So, just to flag, today's agenda will be several things. The Rakshasas, the Silver Nail, Shama talking to the serpent, the ghost of Budan. How do you say this, Emma?
Bodane.
Bodane. Thank you so much. You would imagine, having recorded this, that I would remember. Bodane, and Padmapriya and Padmamukhi meeting Joan in a bus, and the committee. So all of these things need to happen. So
so let's keep the pace up.
Yes.
Okay. So Freya is going to Bundervest to work on reducing heat. So Freya, she's going to be meeting one of her contacts. So let's do a little bit of like world building establishing. There's a faction that we haven't featured yet. Though we have said that there is no actual law enforcement as such in Uduasha, there is a military in Uduasha that, aside from the imperial military and the imperial ward, which is largely for the sake of the governor and for imperial control, there is a local armed force. They're called the Farsun, which is the plural of Faris. Faris being one of the Iruvian playbooks and the same one that Vickers is using. So they're basically soldiers and so on, mercenaries. And they operate out of a fortress in Bundervest that kind of overlooks the old port. And she's going to talk to one of them that she has as her contact, her special friend. This person is called Juleka.
Juleka, nice.
Yes.
Um,
Her tags are reckless, swashbuckling, popular. Her description is a mercenary from Bright Harper who married into the Farsoon, quickly gaining a reputation as a bold, enduring fighter. She wishes to break custom that prevents Farsoon from joining the battles in the Colosseum. I just realized we also have not established the Colosseum, but it's for the listeners. The Colosseum is what it sounds like. I'm sure we will eventually.
it's a Colosseum.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure we will end up there at some point. So I'm going to go speak to this person. And I think like as Freya kind of like moves through Bundervest, she is intentionally trying to avoid the hospitality ghetto. Like she's trying to avoid the Skovlander refugee quarters and so on. And she's trying to find where Faris Juleka might be on this given day, which is usually probably in a very public space, probably showing off in some way, but she's trying to get her alone.
Yeah, I think I know where Juleka is. I think she is. Where did we say the Falling Star Sword Academy was?
That's a good question. We didn't necessarily.
Quarters for the Blade Masters in the Colosseum. In fact, we're going to see the Colosseum right now.
Okay.
I think we do not see this inside the Colosseum because Juleka is not permitted to fight there. We see her in a large public space, probably some kind of, not a park, like a Maidan near the Colosseum. It like rises in the distance, and everybody's aware that like the reason she is here is to try and get in there. And she is having some kind of exhibition fight with one of the swordspeople of the Falling Star, which is the Ustad Turzan Diamond Tooth. Turzan is a tall, built man. Some might even call him built like a brick shithouse. He is not the kind of sword wielder that I think people kind of imagine these days, where it's like, oh, you're quick and fast and like, batojutsu, whatever. I think like he wields the sword, both hands on the hilt, and when he swings it, you better not be there when it comes to hit you. And right now, I think Juleka and Turzan are having this fight, and honestly, Juleka is losing because Diamond Tooth is the best of the best, and he's kind of playing with her. He's kind of trying to show her that she's not good enough to be in the Colosseum. And I think you can see like there's a little crowd. They're yelling. Definitely somebody's taking bets. But at the end of the day, after a particularly nasty fall, Turzan is pointing his curved talvar down at Juleka, who is on the ground, and says something to the effect of, now you can stay and eat dirt, which is what you deserve, or some zinger like that, and walks off. And that's, I think, where you see her.
They call him Diamond Tooth, not because he has diamonds in his teeth, but because he does that thing where he smiles and it just goes ding.
Amazing. Yes, fantastic.
He's been practicing in front of the mirror for 15 years to get it right.
But it's time well spent.
Uh-huh.
He practiced his smile and his sword work, and they are both top-notch.
Uh-huh. Yeah. What does Juleka look like? How are you picturing her?
Good question. I'm kind of thinking of her as fairly like not very tall, almost like a bit plain looking, not like, especially next to someone like Turzan, who's like incredibly hot, right? Like she kind of looks like, oh, you're just a person. Kind of chubby cheeks and I think like maybe the thing that you really like notice about her is the scars on her arms, which come from like all of the fights that she's been in, and she has not really been just in exhibition fights. She's also been in like real scraps. So you can see like on her arms are the like a lifetime of sword gashes that have like healed up.
All right. Yeah, I'm getting a very sports anime protagonist vibe here.
She's definitely the protagonist of a sports anime. I don't think she knows that like this may be a tragedy and not like a comedy.
Yeah.
But I don't think we know either, to be clear.
Yeah. I think Freya's going to. So Freya's like in her hood and so on, and she kind of like goes up to Juleka and kind of like extends her hand and kind of like lifts her up. And I think it's more the thought that counts, because Freya is a very skinny, small person, and even though Juleka is like not a brick shit house, she's still much bigger than the person Freya's trying to pull up. But I think like Juleka would be able to recognize Freya despite the hood. And the cloak. Yeah.
I mean, she's gonna look at you and like say your name.
Yeah, I'm going to put my finger to my lips.
Yeah. And she'll stop herself at that moment. She'll be like, oh, hey, Freya.
And I will kind of indicate like an alley or something.
I think there's probably like a bunch of like nooks and crannies that you can kind of duck into. I'm imagining that like maybe you can actually no. I think what happens is that as you walk past like a chaiwala, Juleka will she carries a flask with her, and she's gonna buy a flask, and I think that like the flask is a new like imperial innovation, and she fills it and then like points to like a little corner and then pours out like 2 little cups of chai.
Yeah. And I drink the tea and I kind of like give her a smile and I say, it's been a long time since I've seen you. And out of character, I don't think I've seen Juleka since I became possessed.
Yeah, no, I don't think she's seen you. I think she is probably gonna say something like, weren't you gonna become Queen of Scotland?
Yeah, that's and a kind of shadow kind of crosses over her face, and then she kind of just shakes her head and says, "It was really, really bad. Something took over. It's gone now. I'm sheltering now in the the ceaseless temple, the one with the eternal snake in Udaput."
I think Juleka kind of wrinkles her brow and says, yeah, I think I've heard of it. Did they in some trouble with the Chandlers a little while ago? Is that the same people?
Yeah, I think Freya kind of like gives a shrug as though like, yeah, maybe, because I don't think she's heard about that.
Sure.
Then she just says, they took me in. They were the ones who rescued me as well. I owe them everything. I don't remember that much, and I wanted, but what I do remember, I wish I could tell you, but even that, it's hard. I know it's been a long time since you've seen me, and now I'm suddenly appearing, but I need your help.
So how did you become friends with her?
Yeah, so Freya, she used to be like a petty mage, sort of con artist kind of person. Like she would do like confidence.
A mirage.
Yeah, Mirage. Yeah, she's the Mirage playbook. So she kind of like she's had a small career in like the various cabarets and like fortune telling places and brothels and all that in Ashcloister and all that. And I think in general, like she made friends with Juleka when Juleka came in for like a palm reading at one time, and like the actual person that Freya used to mostly work for and who is her mentor, and we will come to her probably later because let's not get into too much exposition now. But when Juleka came in for a palm reading, I think there was just something about Juleka, like just the straightforwardness, and I think like I probably have seen her doing this exact same thing of trying to get inside the Colosseum before, because Ashcrester is quite close to the Colosseum. They're connected.
Yep.
Yeah, I just took to her, and I think like instead of like giving her a palm reading, I just straight up told her that I have no fucking idea. I need to save her money. And I think since then we have just kind of like had this candid relationship.
Nice.
Probably one of the few ones of like actual honesty and so on in Freya's life prior to becoming possessed and turned into the sock puppet of a god.
Yes. I think Juleka says anything for a friend, right? You're sure that like whatever trouble you were mixed up in, it's over? You know that I like if you need me to do anything, like, you know, I'll beat anybody up. I have no problem.
Mm-hmm. Freya gives a smile and says, hopefully you won't have to beat anyone up, but let's say that if it may come to it, and that's part of why I'm asking you, but mostly I'm asking you because, well, you're one of the few that I really do still trust. As to what happened, I don't know if it's over yet. I still feel something sometimes. I don't know if it's over. But one thing that is going to be a problem for me and for, well, my new hosts at the temple is that the thing convinced me that I was going to be the Queen of Scotland, and people listened to me. People paid attention. People knew who I was or who I pretended to be. And now I'm gone, and people are going to talk. I know people must be talking. I have been avoiding it, but they must be talking about it in Wunderwest. They must be talking about it in other places as well. And my new friends, they don't need that kind of heat on them. They're already taking such a big risk on me. Can you, I don't know, you're good at, people know you, they trust you. Can you, I don't know, can you tell them some lies or something? Like anything other than the truth? Can you, I don't know, maybe tell them that any rumor they hear about what happened in Wunderfest that day in the grotto, like maybe you were the one who rescued me or something like that. Like I just don't want the temple to be mentioned that much, or people to just, or maybe just have different stories, you know?
I can do you one better. How about we say that you got out of town? You're heading to Scotland right now with a select group of extremely trusted and loyal people. And, you know, we're not going to hear from you until you're successful. And sure, some people might think it's all a lie, but that's the kind of thing revolutionaries do, right?
Freya kind of like nods and grins and says, I think you can tell how out of it I am based on the fact that I didn't come up with that one myself. And there's just absurdity. But yes, that's great. People don't have to believe it. The important thing is so that there's another story moving around, a story that's just as good, right? And so, out of character, I'm now going to roll concert with the extra dice for her.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm reducing heat, clearly.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, let's see what that does. Oh,
A 2
it's
and
a
a
3. Yeah, it's a 3.
Yeah,
so I
that's
reduce
one
one heat. I mean, it's a
Yes.
lot of heat to try to reduce, so I think it's...
Yeah, I mean,
justified.
yeah, and I think it's also that, unfortunately, you were a very influential person. And this is just one more rumor in the swirling vortex of rumors that are going around. To some extent, it's a good thing that there's like so much confusion and like nobody's clear about what happened, because it means that you can kind of slip this in. And it also means that the attention is still on you, and people still, I think, associate the temple with what happened. But you know, it worked a little bit, right? And I think it lays the groundwork for future heat reduction.
Yeah, let's try to do it again. Let's try to reduce heat, but not concert again.
Sure.
But I'm still using Juleka. I think we
Yeah.
kind of like give it a couple of days to kind of like let the new rumors circulate, and they don't. Yeah, like they don't seem to be doing as much. People are saying the ceaseless temple have gone to Scotland, you know. So it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
helping that much. So I
Yeah.
think so. The furries, so the fursoon, right? They aren't like as said, they aren't like the police, but they do arresting and so on. They have in their fortress there is a dungeon, right? So if necessary to arrest people and all that, they're the ones who do it.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm going to ask Juleka to do, and this may be a big ask or not. So even though she's my friend, it may not be a fortune roll, it may be an action roll. You can tell me.
Mhm.
I'm going to ask her if she can find any like incident reports or anything that's been actually logged at the fortress in Bundervest related to what happened at Kingfisher Grotto, and we're going to replace them with doctored documents or incident reports.
Oh. I think this is an action roll because it's not. This would normally be actually the kind of thing that is a score. Like breaking in somewhere and like replacing like a document inside is not like usually the kind of thing that people do without having good reason, and therefore it is quite well protected. Now, Juleka is like a very well respected fatis and does have some access, but that doesn't necessarily mean like it'll go perfectly. But I think the risk here is going to be that like if you don't do this perfectly, Hardil Subramanian, who is the lawyer, the mob lawyer, and who is exactly the kind of person who would be paying attention to this kind of thing, might step in to make it perfect and then turn up and extort you.
Okay. Hardil is also one of my contacts because, of course, he is.
Yes, of course he is. Absolutely.
And we should remember that Hardil is now also our crew's ward boss, as it were. So, yeah, I am perfectly happy to take the consequence of Hardil getting involved.
Yeah.
So, what's my position? Is it risky?
I think this is risky. I think it's risky standard. You can do this, and your position with Hardil might get a bit worse, but I don't think that like it is fun here for you to try and get caught doing this, right? It's much more fun to like get out, maybe even more compromised, but conservation of NPCs, etc.
Yeah. Okay. So normally when one reduces heat, it's a fortune roll, and based on the die result, you reduce heat according to the die result, right? So, but
Yes.
if it's an action roll, then it's a different sort of thing, right? So at standard effect, if I succeed, how much should I be reducing the heat?
2 heat. So the way that I'm thinking of this is that limited effect is a 1 to 3, standard effect is a 4 to 5, great effect is a 6.
Okay.
So
Makes-
standard effect, if you roll a 4 or above, you'll reduce 2 heat.
Excellent. I mean, obviously, I'm tempted to go for Desperate Great, and I have no reason not to. So I'm going to go for Desperate Great. More documents. We're going to burn the Midnight Oil. We're going to keep the documents overnight. We're going to work really hard. And I suppose, we'll see what the desperate consequence is. It might really strain my relationship with Juleka as well. This is a huge ask.
This might be bending the rules a little bit. But can I ask if our high society ability applies? +1 die to gather info about the city's elite.
The problem
I don't think
here,
it does.
is that like your target is not one of the city's elite. Not in the way that I think that like we would normally think about this, because even Freya, when she was, theoretically queen, was not like high society in that way.
That's fair.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's a good call to mention that. I think I often forget that you have it. So
yeah. Okay. Also, I'm taking an extra dice for Juleka. Does it still
makes
count?
sense.
Okay.
Oof. A 2, a 1, and a 2. I'll tell you what happens is you turn up, you burn the midnight oil, you replace everything, you leave thinking you've done a great job, and the next day we see Hardil have a meeting with someone. Like it's this very quick montage of them like talking, and then Hardil hands them some cash, and then this person returns, takes out all of the paperwork that you've done, and replaces it with impeccable paperwork. But the reason that I think it doesn't reduce any heat is that So heat is like an abstraction of the attention that is on you at the moment, right? And like what
Yep.
you've done is redirected it from broadly, like the institutions that care about you, specifically to Hardil, who is now like, I disappeared, and now they're trying to like fiddle with what happened that evening after I fucked off. And now I'm like cleaning up their mess, and there's going to be a reckoning, right?
Can I request that we owe him a score? Because I think that would be a fun way
Yes.
to get involved into, like,
Yeah.
set us up
That
for
is-
an interesting score down the line.
That is absolutely what he is going to make you do, right? Like he's just like not even just one score. I think he's generally going to lean on you to do things for him because he's heard what you've done in the grotto, and a group of people like you would be very useful, and the temple is an excellent front.
Hey guys, Freya's helping.
Yeah, it's okay.
absolutely.
Yeah, it is.
Very good.
Uh-huh.
In fact,
because there's
I
an
think
action
I'll
roll
make-
and I failed, I guess I reduced no heat at all.
No, you don't reduce any heat. Indeed, yes. You might have reduced 3 heat. You reduced 0. In fact, I think what I will also do is I will make Hardil. He will inveigle himself into your committee as a way to like keep an eye on what you're doing and keep like his finger on the pulse of the temple. So he'll turn up shortly.
I mean, he should. I mean, he's our pro bono lawyer, remember? Miras and
Yes.
he worked out the deal.
Yeah, that's all of that is true, but like he wasn't necessarily going to represent his boss's interests. Now he's definitely going to just work all the angles.
I don't know, he's definitely representing our interests. He's our pro bono lawyer. He has no other
Yes.
interests we're talking about.
Indeed, yeah.
Okay, that's my downtime. This is my contribution.
Thank you.
Okay.
What is everyone else doing?
Yeah, everyone else has more downtime. I think I thought about it, and I think since I already stated what Vickers is doing, which is just like hard training, I'm just gonna like say here that I am doing 2 downtime actions because I think it fits in this context. And I'm going to spend stash rather than coin for these because even though it's less efficient, I think it makes sense. And it's just that Vickers is normally pretty good at maintaining the economy and household of the household and the temple, but now she just kind of lets it go. So I'm spending stash to represent her having her money less in order. I'm spending 4 stash on 1 action to train and 1 action to indulge vice because like physical exercise is her vice. So
Yeah, makes sense.
she rolls a critical hit on indulging vice.
Incredible. You have that much stress?
No, well, I have 8 stress, so I don't overindulge. Can
No,
I,
you
as
don't.
a consequence of critting, clear all my stress, though? It's a bit of a house rule, but
Yeah, I think it's fine. But I'm curious about how does that work? Like, what is so relieving?
what is... I think the interesting answer here, to put a little bit more story focus on this, is that Vickers is now just like doing hard exercise, right? And she's just doing this to distract herself, to drive out the demons of doubt and guilt and whatnot that she feels. So she's just pushing herself like hell. But it's, relieving stress nonetheless. But I think what actually makes this a critical hit is her vice purveyor, Purnima. Because they have a very strange relationship. They're captains of rival teams, but it's a very friendly rivalry.
Yeah.
And I think we don't have to play out the scene, but I think what makes this such a good thing for Vickers is that Purnima probably intervenes and goes like, look, you need rest.
You're hurting yourself? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's one of those, like, it's not even their usual dynamic is one of like rivalry. So normally she'd be like, you won't be a worthy opponent if you hurt yourself. But I think this is actually a more genuine, touching moment of like, I can tell that you are unhealthy at the moment.
Yeah.
And so consequently, because of Purnima's intervention, rather than work herself to the bone, Vickers actually has like good exercise. She has like a very thorough exercise. She gets good rest afterwards, and she is, feeling physically a lot better after all this.
Absolutely. Very good.
So yeah, that's I still have more things I want to do, but I just figured since I already established this is what Vickers is doing while everything else is going on, let me just handle it mechanically. So
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
All right.
What are Joan and Abbas doing?
Joan is going to give away the fine lightning.
Ah, yes. It did survive intact, didn't it?
It did survive, but the other one did not. So
No, yeah.
she has to give Kahara a replacement.
Yes, yeah. At least
Wait,
you
what
didn't
did you
break
say?
two of them.
It sounded like Joan's going to get struck by lightning.
She's gonna give away her fine lightning hook because she broke the one that her friend Kahara gave her.
I see. So she's not going to get struck by lightning.
Well, Miraz blew up the one that Kahara gave her. I think is what happened.
Yes. That is what happened. You are correct. In an attempt to try and like shock that ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Yes. Okay, I mean, I think that broken lightning hooks are not necessarily unknown to Railjacks. Like, they're part of the job. The problem is that, she wasn't meant to give it to you, and she was definitely going against regulations. So, I think when you give the lightning hook back to her, so I guess, like, we're back in the Imperial Quarter, we're back in that train station, in her bunk, and I think as soon as you, like, walk in, she will notice that you don't have the lightning hook on you, and you're carrying your own. And she says, "What have you done?"
I'm sorry. There was a ghost that didn't work the way it should have been.
Joan, I told you had to...
I know. I've brought you my own. This is a slightly older model, but well, it's the one we used to use.
I think she takes it in her hands, and like looks at it and says, "You always did like them a bit shorter than I did. Are you sure that are you okay? You look really tired."
I'm alright. It was a lot, but we're out now, and we did what we needed to do.
I think she hears the seriousness in your voice, and then she says, "Okay, look, I'm gonna take this with me, and it's gonna be weeks before I'm back, but I will arrange to have an accident and have to replace my lightning hook, and I will get this back to you, because you are not supposed to be wandering around without your lightning hook."
It's really no need for that. You've already gone to enough trouble, and there's enough bureaucratic interest in you already, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I did get chewed out by... What do Railjacks call their superiors? I did get chewed out by... Sorry, go on?
The foreman?
Yeah, the foreman, correct. I
Wait,
did get chewed out by the foreman.
I have a suggestion.
like-
Aren't Railjacks like I think in Ghost Lines they're called like bulls?
Oh, okay.
Oh, shit.
Is the foreman the matador?
Oh my god!
Oh my.
I like that.
Great. Yeah, that's what they're called now. Yeah, well, Matador did chew me out. Something about missing cartridges of ammunition. I told him he could shove it up his ass. He wasn't very happy about that. But,
So just keep it. I'll be fine with that. There's no ghosts. Not anymore.
that's what I thought before you asked me for it. I think if you... Yeah. I think you get the feeling this is a bit of an impasse, right? Because she's like, you broke it, and that's really bad, and I do need this, but the fact that you broke it proves that you need it. And I think she will say, "Come see me when I'm back in town."
Alright. Really, it'll be fine. I have to go. Thanks.
Anytime, Joan. See you soon.
Yeah, you too. Be safe.
Be safe. Yeah, and I think as you leave her, there is this sense of like, this isn't finished. But it'll be unfinished. It'll keep. So that's fine. Great. Abbas,
Yes.
what does your downtime look like?
I'm thinking about it. So, what do I need to do?
I remember we talked about you thinking it would be cool if Abbas had some more like agency over the philosophy of the temple rather than just listening to the snake. And I feel like
Yes.
now is the perfect time for you to get something like this in. Maybe
I was thinking that.
Yeah.
So there's a few ways I could go about it. One is to, like, I don't know if it makes sense for us to covertly kind of try to undermine the snake's authority just by being kind of sneaky about it, or if you'd like peruse the the ancient libraries, like to or find out the origins of this avatar, like and what exactly is the authority is, and then come back with like actual solid information.
Oh, I
Or-
like that idea. I
Yeah.
think it's very cool if you like research the history of the giant serpent.
Yeah,
That's really-
absolutely.
Researching the history of the giant serpent it is. All right. Okay, so I think the history of the giant serpent would be in like the very the most ancient texts, right? And maybe like Padma Priya and Padma Mukhi are the people to talk to about like where these because they might know like of collections that even Abbas doesn't know exist in the temple.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Why don't you roll first, and then I'll tell you what their attitudes are, and then we can actually, if Joan, you're around, we can have that conversation with them as well. I think this is a good time to. We can see the philosophy in action, as it were.
Yeah.
Can I
are we
assist
think-
Abbas?
in downtown? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
okay,
mean,
yeah. Yeah.
mechanically, I should be able to. I'm just asking if I can, narratively.
Are you near? I guess narratively, are you nearby?
Yeah, I mean, I think Freya comes back, and I think like now there's a bit more of a spring in her step, and she seems to be engaging a bit more. She seems very happy because she totally fudged the record, guys. We aren't in trouble anymore. Everything's great. She doesn't tell anyone about this, of course, but everything's going great. And she's like, here's this nice old man who threw the spirit bomb and freed her from the curse of the fucked up kingfisher thing that was possessing her soul. She knows how to read. If you need a extra pair of eyes in the library, she's got an extra pair of eyes.
Yeah, sure. So I guess the rule's gonna be study then, right? Because like that's what we're doing.
Yeah,
guess.
I think studies
Yeah.
makes perfect sense here.
Same old stuff. No modifiers, I guess, other than the assist dice.
Before you roll.
Uh,
Oh, no.
too late.
Okay, you have rolled.
Yes.
No.
It's
We
a
can-
3, a 1, and a 6. So he was like the assist was very important. But what
Yeah.
were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, how you feel about me assisting. Like, last time you saw me, I was, like an enemy. You saved my life, and now there's some new person that. I mean, I suppose the fact that you get a 6 on, I guess, my assist dice makes a huge difference in the whole thing. But like, was Abbas like reluctant? Was he a bit of a barrier? Was he welcoming in the first place?
Actually, yeah, I don't think Buzz was reluctant at all because, like, I think the general mood in the temple with Freya has just been very welcoming. Because after the Kingfisher spirit, like or whatever, like left Freya's body, like what you're left with is just a young, like vulnerable girl, like, and I think everyone's instant like reaction was, oh, we should take care of her, like make sure she's in good hands, right? So I think, yeah, I don't think there's been any, like, yeah, I don't think that Abbas would have been like hesitant at all.
And I think this is probably Freya's first proper access to a library.
Huh.
So I think like she spends as much time reading as you do.
Well, I
Interesting.
mean, well, that's something to bond over then, right?
Bond over in silence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just each of us just picks up one book and go, oh, yeah.
Ah,
Have you ever played The Sims?
yes.
So true.
This definitely sounds like the kind of noises Sims make. Anyway, please go on.
Just, we can admire the citations, like wow, all right, look at that. Like his bibliography has some really strong sources here.
Yeah. So what did we uncover? We get a 6, so that's like a
Yeah,
3
so-
tick, right? On the project?
I think that you find a. Okay, I think this is what the scene looks like. As you enter the library, Padma Priya and Padma Mukhi are like in their own little corners doing some research. And then I think you stumble across Padmapriya while looking for this volume, and you find that actually she's reading exactly what like you want to be reading. And she's reading a different section of the same book. But she says, oh, I see. You require this as well? Give me one moment. And then like kind of like marks her place and then hands it over to you. But she doesn't leave. She's waiting for you to finish. And I think what you find out, so this is an account of like the founding myths of the temple. So in fact, there is something about the shrine builder in here as well, I think. But the bit to do with the snake says, and it's like, this is both allegory and fact, which is in the time before recorded time, there was an egg made of fire that rose out of the flame, and from this egg hatched the snake. And the fire is our god, and the snake is the manifestation of our god in our world. And I think that like the ending of the myth kind of implies that maybe it wasn't the first time that it happened, and it might not be the last time that it happened, right? That like the point is that no single form of the god will ever be fixed, and it will be constantly changing and so on. But whether or not that means that like the previous one dies or what happens, that is not clear.
Okay. Very useful stuff. All right.
Very interesting.
And I think so what happens as you read this is that you notice that Padmamukhi now has also wandered over. They're both like holding these they're holding lanterns made by chandlers. And as you peer inside them, you see that there is no fire in them, because I think fire is definitely a hazard in a library. And instead, it seems to be glowing from within somehow. And Padmamukhi looks at Abbas, and in this moment, you realize that both of them, their eyes have gone a little serpentine. They no longer have the round pupils. Their pupils appear to be a bit elongated, especially here in the depths of the temple, where the light is really coming from their lanterns and not from anywhere outside. And I think Padmamukhi says, did you find what you were looking for?
Yeah, I think I might have found something very interesting. But, okay, I mean, so Padmamukhi's eyes turning serpentine, like, has this happened before? Or, like, is this the first time Abbas is...
This is new, yeah. I think, like, this has been true maybe for, like, a few weeks, but not necessarily... You can't necessarily, like, tell unless you're paying close attention. The skin has also gone a bit, like, snake skinny, but that's, again, like, only in some lights, only sometimes.
Okay, I think Abbas just goes, Padmamukhi, right? Yes. Well, because you can't tell them apart.
No, you can't. No.
Are you feeling okay?
Am I feeling okay? You know that the avatar of our god, His Majesty, the Eternal One himself, has abandoned us, yes? His presence is nowhere to be felt in the temple. One cannot beseech him for advice or summon him.
Oh, yes, I felt a great weight lifted on my shoulder, yes.
I think, like, Padmamukhi, like, looks at you quite sternly and says, is our god such a burden to you, Abbas, that his disappearance makes your heart lighter?
But
I mean, the answer to the question is yes.
Yes.
Yes, but, like, you know, she
But-
wants to hear the words come out of Abbas's mouth.
But Padmamukhi, our god has not disappeared. What has disappeared was merely the manifestation of the god in this world. An imperfect manifestation. Because can there be true perfection in the material world? No. See, but the true god is still with us because I have felt his power recently, even after the snake left us.
I think at this, Padmapriya, who is the nicer one, says, you felt the touch of the Chokroborty?
Of course, have you not? Have you not heard of my exploits down in the grotto of the Kingfisher?
I dismiss that as rumor and hearsay. Are you to tell me that we led an attack on the cult of a rival god and nobody told us?
Led an attack is a strong use of words. We were merely going to negotiate the release of hostage, and the negotiations went very poorly. But, as I said, the power of the god is still with us, and I channeled it through these very hands. At this point, maybe like Abbas, like, though he doesn't want to, like, he is leaning in, like, that the power, like, he is like the there's a lingering power drunkenness, like, yes, and through these very fingers, I erased all those who would harm us and brought us back safely. There is the power of your god, Priya.
I think Padmamukhi, you're saying this to Padmapriya, and she's like, oh, she's a bit impressed, but Padmamukhi is actually spending this time looking at Freya, and she says,
Me?
You, Abbas, please tell me we did not invite the scion of the god that you led an attack on into our temple.
Oh no, this is just Freya. She's no
Hello.
longer. Yeah. She's no longer the sign of the god, right, Freya? You're no longer the sign.
No, I don't feel like a Sam.
Yeah, there you go.
I think Padmapriya just like pats Padmamukhi on the shoulder and says, No, sister, this is, I'm sure that Abbas and Miraz have a very good explanation for this. Is it true though? Did you feel the touch of the god in the grotto?
If only I could describe what I felt in the grotto. It was like I had become the star itself. The power coursing through me, it was like I was not myself anymore. I had become something else, and then this power, I released it all in one instant.
How did you manage such a feat?
Oh, he's being too modest. It was amazing. Unbelievable.
Yes, certainly it strains credulity. That's Padmamukhi.
I felt the thing that was holding on to me, it just vanished. And then it was, and then Joan, she ate it.
I beg
Oh,
your
she
pardon?
did she? Oh, and because Abbas didn't see this part either. Oh, she did.
Yeah, it was.
No.
It was
It is
astonishing.
clear that
Like,
your senses have been addled, child. For it seems that you seem to think that Joan, dear sister, has eaten a god.
I mean, knowing Joan, this does seem like the kind of thing she would do. So
We are going to ask her right now. And I
maybe
think,
you
like,
should feed her
Padmamukhi's-
more from the temple canteen.
I think Padmamukhi is genuinely at this going to storm off to find Joan and challenge her on this and get her to admit that this is all like nonsense, and Abbas and Freya have no idea what they're talking about.
I think Freya's going to follow because this is very funny.
yes,
Yeah, I mean, it's hilarious because
that's
every word of what you said
we're
is
all
true.
coming along.
Yeah, absolutely. Joan, where are you? In
So
fact,
this
I
is happening. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I suspect they're yelling for you. They're saying, Joan, where are you? Like through the temple, just hoping to find you when at some point you respond.
This is the temple like library archive, right? That
Yes.
this happened in. She's like a few rows down with her nose buried in other books.
Nice. Okay. And I think like when you respond and it turns out you were right there the whole time, Muki's even more annoyed because she was thinking, oh, I'll have to go somewhere far away. She's really working herself up to a full head of steam. And then like it turns out you're right here and she like walks over to you and she says, Joan, what is this I hear about eating a god? What could you have done that might have seemed like that to young, impressionable minds like Freya? And, well, we all know Abbas was a bit feeble in the head.
Look, okay, I don't see what the big deal is because you're so worked up about this god, but the problem is taken care of, right?
there's like a million books open here, with and like notes scattered over them. And Joan is just kind of like unhealthily hunched over them, eyes bloodshot, doesn't quite respond once they come in, but once she is asked about eating a god, she kind of slumps even more and almost whispers, It's true. I did it.
I think the problem is they actually have a fair amount of respect for you, Joan. So I don't think Padmamukhi thinks that you are lying to her. I think she...
Crap, oh no.
Indeed. So I think she looks at you and says, "You ate a god? What is the world coming to? Our god abandons us? It turns out one of our congregation is some kind of a divinity murderer?" And I think she's like genuinely like realizing that the reality that she lives in is not the reality that she thought it was.
Joan shrinks even more, like violently at the words divinity murderer.
I mean, yeah.
Look, okay, what's this all? Look, what is all this talk about eating a god? We all know that there is only one god, the god up in the sky, right? This pretend god, this kingfisher. You know, what kind of god gets eaten, right? Like, I don't see what the big deal here is. Some, just calm down. This is just some pretend god that, and if Joan can eat it, then I don't see what the big deal here is.
This is really interesting. Is Abbas a monotheist?
Yeah. I mean,
there. I think Abbas believes that there are these spirits and stuff that people foolishly worship, but because like if we are like in if our temple is worshiping this god, then I think there has to be some kind of element as like this is the right one, right? Or the only one worthy of worship, right? I expect this a bit like maybe Discworld. All gods are real, but like there are you are devoted to one, and to some extent
that
you
one's
must.
clearly the right one.
Yeah, like even though you know that the others, even though you know the other ones exist, like your one is the good one.
Yeah.
As opposed
I
to
also
being a
point out that
monotheist,
like
which is
I was gonna say Catholics do actually eat their god. So what? Like I'm just saying. Yeah, something to consider. And I think Padmapriya, like, with a lifetime of doing this to her sister, will like kind of like hold her by the hand and say, "Sister, must be calm now." And then she will turn to you, and it's clear that like her interest is really in this thing which you've said about like feeling the god's power. And she says, "What did you do to feel it? How did you? It flowed through your fingers? How did that happen? What did you do to feel the powers of the god?" In a tone as if to say, "How can I feel that?"
Well, Padmapriya, I was there, and in the grotto, and it was horrible. Like we were surrounded by these malevolent spirits, like something we've never seen in Uluasha before. And Miraz, Miraz, Joan, Vickers, like I could see they were all in danger. We were not going to make it out of their life. And then the words, they just came to me, right? Like maybe the god was speaking to me directly. And like Abbas actually has no actual reason to think that this is the case, but he's going to milk this for everything that is worth. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the words just came to me, and when I spoke them, the holy scriptures that are embroidered on our robes, they started to glow. It was just instinct. I think probably when the time is right for you, you too perhaps can feel this.
A time of great danger, even after the Avatar shunned you, shunned us. Eternal One was still by your side. Sister, we are not forsaken after all. And I think that like Padmamukhi, who by now has had a couple of seconds to like calm down, just says, "Yes, Joan has committed an act that I cannot even fathom. You well? Have you slept? Have you been here all night?
She's saying this to Joan or to us?
Yeah, she's saying it to Joan, actually.
Not all night. I just need to. I need to understand you, because I also don't understand.
And I think at this, Padmamukhi will say, well, my sister and I have some little experience with divine essences. And she says it in like this dry tone as if to be like, no biggie. And she says, why don't you come with me? You can take a bath and sleep. And I will catalog these books and see what I can find.
I don't know if that's a good idea. I just moments like this, they happened before. Abbas, you've been reading about this, right? The snake disappearing or the avatar disappearing and gods being eaten and
Well, Joan, the snake, from what I can tell, is no permanent fixture in our faith. It comes, it goes, and why? I have good reason to believe that this is not even the original avatar. It's like there could have been many before it, and there will be many after. Look, worst case scenario, if the snake has gone and we can't find it, and we really, really need another one, which I don't think we do, okay, we just wait, another one will come, right? Because once again, I think the important thing here to realize is that even though the avatar of the god is gone, the god is not gone. A very important distinction to make here.
suppose that's true. Yeah. You're right. I'm going to get something to eat. And then she looks at me.
And I gesture to Padma, Priya, and Padmamukhi and say, she's going to go get something to eat. Make sure she has like proper food.
I think Padmamukhi, she says, nobody told her to eat a god. It's a terrible idea unless you do it very carefully. And, well, I think she kind of points to herself and says, it can have side effects.
Have you been eating many gods?
And I think Padmapriya says, well, you see, my sister and I, we have been researching something of our cult's history with transformation, and it turns out that, well, there have been those who have merged with Avatar in some way, and I think he looks at Abbas and says this. She says, don't tell Miraz this, but, well, we were not very happy with the way Miraz was handling things, so we thought, what could go wrong? And we're closer to the Avatar, but that is why my sister is so upset. She did not expect that our God would abandon us. Certainly not because of what appears to be more of Miraz's decisions.
When you say get closer to the god, you mean to the snake. Are you trying to transform into them?
Listen, it's not my business to tell you how to run your temple. I've just come here, but I can tell you, take it from me. Trying to become a god is not a good thing. Let them stay up there and us down here, and separation. That's ideal.
I think Abbas is all thinking to himself at this point, wait, is this blasphemy? Is turning into a god like loud?
Great question. This is exactly the kind of thing that you should do philosophy about. And I think that Padmapriya and Padmamukhi have been kind of like keeping the secret from everyone because nobody would like it if it turned out that this is what they're doing. And so they may be just like making some of this up as they go, but they are also very experienced. The stuff that they're making up as they go is still like quite solid. So yeah, they're a bit snake-like. But, much worse things could have happened than they have.
I think Joan, being in the process of walking away, maybe stops in the stairwell, and then like only half comes back. You're doing this to yourself, and only to yourself.
I think Padmamukhi says, in fact, we are doing it together. As such a thing is not safe to do, and one is both subject and intelligent.
Who are you doing it then?
I think Padmapriya says, we found a book that details some of this, and well, both of us have been practicing mostly on each other, to be fair. And I think she kind of blinks, and then for 1 second you see her entire face almost transformed into a snake, and then she blinks and then goes back to normal. As
Oh shit!
it can have weird effects. We're practicing. We're trying to learn how to control it.
She takes a step forward. Now, I'm going to need you to be specific, please. Mostly to each other or only on each other?
Only on each other. We would not invite anyone else into most ancient secrets of our cult. The only reason that we are speaking of it now is that, well, Faraz isn't around, so I don't feel so bad. I think if you are getting breakfast, then we should get breakfast as well. Sister, I will see you in a few hours. I think Padmapriya just comes with you. She's like, I'm going to put some food in you, I'm going to put some food in me, and maybe we all need to take a break from this for a little bit, because that was very stressful. And yeah, I think that was kind of like what I wanted to bring up, and it dovetailed very nicely with what happened last session, which is that these guys have been doing their own weird experiments. Nobody's paying attention to them. And, it's like, I think I was basically thinking about, well, these are like, you have an elite cohort that's been here forever, whom nobody talks to. Floor was unreliable. So I was like, well, seems pretty unreliable to me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what they've been up to.
Need to talk some sense into them.
Yeah.
Probably, yes. And again, now is a good time because the snake isn't around.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that it's very likely that this is the kind of thing that they would need the snake to do. So, without the snake, this becomes very difficult. But they were definitely also in on it with the snake. Whatever that. Yeah.
Okay, so that was also falling on one of our busy downtime actions.
Yes. I figured this was basically working on the clock that Vickers started about solving the shunning.
Okay, so 3 ticks to that then.
Yeah, because
It sort of makes sense. It's going around the serpent to the
exactly
god itself. Okay,
I'm marking on that then.
So then we have 4 ticks on the Chokroborty's favor. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's exactly that, like, the clock is called the god's favor, not the avatars. So, like...
Yeah. Let's do more downtime and then get to it.
Yeah. So who has downtime left?
I think I do.
Yeah, I've got some downtime left, but yeah, Emma, you can go first while I think of what I want to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think the research that she had been doing is going to continue over the days. Now with the added suspicion that if Padmapriya and Padmamukhi are doing this this kind of bringing closer to the god or to the avatar thing, it might have leaked. And that's why she is becoming stranger and stranger herself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So she wants to like just understand exactly what they are doing and whether it might have something to do with like devouring nature.
Yeah, for sure.
So Yeah, I think it's probably a project clock, understanding the devouring nature.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have a specific insight into this because you are this. I don't think this needs to be a very long clock. I think this could be 40. And I think depending on how you go about it, we will discover something. I will also flag that a couple of sessions ago when you ate the crow, we actually did establish that you have understanding of the crow because you ate it. It does seem a bit like eating things is how Joan understands things.
Like a toddler.
Yeah, absolutely like that.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. How do you want to go about this? Do you want to consort with, or I mean, do you want to talk to cohort or find someone else? Like, what is your? In fact, there are some people you could definitely talk to, who are of course the Rakshasas, who are famous
Yes.
for eating things.
They are. So
I mean, we could definitely kind of see that.
maybe that should be what I do.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. The temple does have. It's gone. I thought. Well, I mean, I thought that the temple had a Rakshasa contact, because you have like positive status with them.
Let's just give ourselves one. We have
Yes.
space.
Yeah, you do.
While I write one in, how about you give the listeners a narration from maybe the faction description?
Yes. So.
We haven't featured them before.
So the Rakshasas are a faction, but also like a description for a kind of person in Udwasha, which is someone who is both monstrous and dedicated to a specific cult and the code of that cult. And this cult is the cult of the Lady of Mercy, who's also known as She Who Slays in the Dark. The Rakshasas keep Udwasha well ordered, both physically and kind of spiritually. So they keep the city clean, they gather refuse, this kind of thing. But also, they are the people who kind of like go after any arcane problems that arise. Especially if the arcane problems arise in places where the noble houses are not paying attention. And actually, this is a lovely line in one of the descriptions, which is, every child sleeping with an open window lives in fear. The Rakshasa will come in at night, come in with his red-stained sack and a big, big smile. Oh, yes. And I think that they are probably as old, if not older, as a cult, as the cult of the Chokroborty. And I think you find that the two cults have a very collegial kind of relationship, like mutual respect. Probably just like Abbas, there are people who are in the cult of the Lady of Mercy who are like, oh no, but our God's the real one, that one's fake. But by and large, it's like we are both institutions in this place and we belong here. Let's give this Rakshasa a name, and let's not give him a name.
So we had one. I just remembered that there. Oh, sorry,
Yes.
no, I was confused. I was thinking about the gargoyle contact that Zajidan had. We never established a Rakshasa contact.
Oh, I see. I thought we did.
No. Do you want to take? So I have like two NPCs that I came up with. One of them was the chief priestess, which I think is probably not the one.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
the
think
other
she's the other one. Looking for. Unfortunately, the word Rakshasa comes up quite a lot, as you can imagine.
The other one is called Daddy Danda.
Yes, that is what he is called.
His tags are collector, kindly, charitable, and avid singer.
That's great, because I am also a terrible.
Are you a charitable and avid singer?
I mean, like, I'm not terrible, but I'm not great. I'm mediocre and avid.
Just be mediocre and avid, and if necessary, I'll just do some post-processing to make it worse.
Excellent, very good. Just like auto-tune it so much it becomes out of tune. So this guy, Daddy Danda, is probably the Rakshasa who does the rounds here. And in fact, we established that like the Rakshasas have a back door into your temple. Not that they they use it or that he uses it now, but like that is also something we should keep in mind. But Joan, you can find him kind of wandering around Udaiput, just like it's kind of like a policeman on a beat, except this is a garbage man on a beat, and he is very tall, very pale, thick, thin, and when he speaks, you can see that his teeth glint perfect white in the mirror light. He could give Diamond Tooth a run for his money.
Bone white.
Bone white, yes, absolutely. And I think if you see him, he will recognize you.
So
And
all
they
Rakshasas have some sort of animal companion.
Yes,
You see
correct. I think he has a some kind of lizard, like a large like monitor lizard type thing that like is curled around him. What do you think is the weird thing about this lizard that kind of like sets it apart from something you might see?
Probably that it's a hairy lizard.
Sure, yeah, that's what
It
is.
doesn't have fringe, it has a mane.
Absolutely. It has, and I think like it's got bells in its mane, which he's like very carefully like tied into its mane, and like it tinkles, and as like the cart kind of like. And when he sees you, he recognizes you. I don't know if you recognize him, but he knows who you are.
I think I've heard of this guy probably because he's in our district and we have a collegial relationship with them.
Yes.
And still, she will introduce herself. Hello, I'm Joan.
Joan Didi, the one that like came from.
Scotland.
Yeah, of course. We've all been hearing about you. You used to ride those trains.
Yes, yeah.
What a life. I mean, how come you gave it up? That's really quite something.
Well, it gets too much to stomach after some time. Are you, And she looks at him questioningly.
I think like, yeah, he's just going to say, am I? And like raise his eyebrows as if to be like, no, you could be asking me anything.
I was looking for Rakshasa, the one who goes around here.
This is my beat. I mean, I've been looking after this part of Udaiput now 30 years, ever since old Pani passed away. What do you need? What can I do for you? Some kind of arcane trouble? I figured, temple usually doesn't need that kind of help, but happy to offer.
Something like that. Something I need to understand.
Understanding. Now that's something we should all be pursuing. Now, why don't you come with me? I can't really afford to stay in one place at a time, but so long as you can keep up with me and what is the lizard called? Called Tiger. As long as you can keep up with me and Tiger here, And like he's just gonna continue through like Udaiput, which is like I've always imagined it like kind of old Delhi, like very like higgledy-piggledy houses, but also quite grand in its own. And he's like saying hello to people he meets, pointing things out, just telling you like trivia, waiting for you to open up.
I've been eating a lot of strange things lately. Not entirely of my own will. I'm
Eating not out of your own will? That sounds like a problem, huh? What have you been eating?
I ate a golem once.
Can you say that again?
One of
Wait,
those
a
birds,
golem?
the wax birds. That's how it started.
How did you find that they tasted?
Crunchy,
So you liked it.
I suppose so.
Mm.
I'm mostly worried, and I would like to stop.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. See, I mean, for me, the golems always, they're just like, they leave too many bits between your teeth. I'm not a fan, but that absolutely, some people, some of my friends, they love it. So, of course, it can't be helped, different strokes for different folks, haha. You said you wanted to stop. Now, do you find yourself compelled to eat crows quite often? Of course, you can only really find them in the Imperial Quarter, no?
It's not necessarily that, it's that other things lose their taste.
Other things.
Like they don't feed me.
Okay, that does seem like a problem. Now tell me, did this come upon you all of a sudden? No warning, nothing, just one day you're walking down the road, you see a crow and you think to yourself, yes, I would like to eat that?
Basically, yes.
Yeah, I mean, stranger things have happened, but this is pretty strange. Now, I need you to be honest with me. Have you killed a Rakshasa recently?
No. Not at all.
Okay, good. Because sometimes, well, our lady doesn't like it, and then she makes bad things happen to people who hurt. But if you say it, then I'll believe you. That does leave us in something of a pickle. Do you like pickle?
No, I used to. Is this how it normally happens?
No, this is absolutely not how it normally happens. The way that it normally happens is that, well, for example, Tiger here, he's been my friend for a long time, and we learn to eat things as Rakshasas from our animal companions. We learn how to appreciate something that you might not always think can be eaten, and it gives you a new appreciation for life, for all of the things in it, which are eventually at some point going to die. But something like what's happened to you, that does seem like something like a god would do because it thought it was quite funny. You've been in trouble with any gods recently? Maybe not mine, but some others?
A little bit. Well, our own god seems to have an interesting sense of humor sometimes.
Ma'am, they all do. They all do. I think they think it's funny, but it's nothing but trouble for us. Okay, so here's what I suggest. If you find yourself unable to eat regular food, you should do the same thing that, we do, which is bond with something that can help you appreciate that. Pay attention. Like the first time I saw Tiger, just fucking completely destroy a golem, just ate it in one fell swoop, I thought to myself, now I have to do that, and I did, because that is what my god requires of me. You do the opposite. You find something or someone who enjoys chickpeas or biryani, and you really kind of focus on that. That's option one. Option two is to appease whatever god you're in, and then he makes air quotes. He says, whatever god you're in a little bit of trouble. But I imagine that's a lot harder.
I think I'll talk to Vickers first and see if that works.
Victoria, that's Miraz's wife, right?
Yes.
I really should drop by sometime. I haven't seen Zajidan in a while. And you had that roof ball party, but I couldn't come. Yeah, I think I'll definitely turn up. And I think then his smile turns just a little sly, and he says, and tell me if you have any problem with that Kingfisher stuff also, huh? We are here to help you anytime. And I think he just says that, and then we'll leave with this kind of.
Yeah, she's just fucking stunned.
Yeah, I think he was waiting for you to bring that up, and then you didn't, and then that was fine. But then at the end, he just couldn't resist. We just say I couldn't resist, but I was being him, so it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Does he sing as he walks away?
Yeah. What is he singing? He's singing something probably. Oh, I know what he's singing. He's singing a very famous song from. When is it from? The 70s? Yeah, the 70s. It is from the film Bobby. It is "Main Shayer To Nahi," and he's very off tune. Of course, the film Bobby does not exist in Urdu Asha, but somehow the song does. Just with it.
There are mysteries here about this cult. Clearly.
Yes, indeed. जब से देखा मैंने तुझको मुझको शायरी आ गई. And then he's like kind of like as he wanders off singing this, I think we see Joan just kind of like stand there quite shocked. And then like a small child will walk up to her and say, are you okay? As if like, you look really, my mom's just sent me down the road to make sure you're fine. Like, I think that's where the scene kind of ends. Just with that look of shock on you.
Wonderful.
So we should do the committee as a score, and I think like a couple of things. I will remember the silver nail as well, and I'll bring that up here somehow. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I should maybe, because this was what I just did was a downtime action to work by project. I should roll the consort or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think
He
consult
got
is
so
good.
absorbed in the scene.
Yeah,
Let's make sure to finish all the downtime actions, like get all that out of the way, and then move towards the committee.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm just gonna roll consort, and does it make sense to have a bonus die for him?
Oh yeah, I think he will give you. I think the cost that you paid for his bonus die was the look on your face, and he's very happy with it. So yes,
Wonderful. It's a 6.
Incredible. It's so important that he told you that.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
So what
he
is
gave
this?
you the one bonus die, right?
Oh yeah, this is a separate project, right?
Yeah, this
For-
is not.
for-
Yeah, this is not the favor of the god.
All good.
Excellent.
Call this one tummy troubles.
No, I mean it says don't understand her devouring nature, but tummy troubles is awful. Yeah, that's how I
Yep.
will think of it.
So Abbas has one downtime action, Joan has one downtime action, right?
Yes.
No, my downtime actions are done.
Oh yeah, you're
Your
good.
downtime
then.
Okay, so Abbas has one left. Okay.
I do have one left, and
Don't you have 2 left? No, you have only 1 left. 'Cause you have calculating, right?
yeah, I've got
You have calculating, so you have 2 left, but let's do them
2
quickly
left.
then.
Yeah, though I don't know if like I mean I don't have to do 2 because I don't really have much to.
I mean, you
do,
could just like
I think.
train for one of them.
Yeah. One thing I think I could do is, like I said, maybe. I was thinking, like, maybe, like, before the score, make some kind of move against the Big Motion Thera, so that could be, like, finding some info on her, like maybe which would be, I don't know, like, acquire an asset of some kind, like, or, like, try to find out what her plans are. But I don't know if that works better now or as part of a gather info before the score.
You can also flashback to it. You can just use current situation to, like, I don't know, just do some quick stuff like reduce heat, indulge vice, or just train.
Yeah, and then like,
stuff
and there's a few clocks you could work on. There's the, arcane wards. Like there's a clock for like getting to a new claim. There's a few, there's some stuff. So like you're not short of things that you could.
Yeah, and it's more of when's the time to do it. Like, you know what? I'm just gonna do some quick stuff now so we can move on. So let's do some training, which is let me bring up the appropriate.
Yeah, it's easy. Like you basically say whether you're training one of the like attributes inside Prowess Resolve or Playbook.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Which one are you doing?
I'm gonna be training. Should I specialize or spread out? I think maybe I'll train Attune because I think I'm gonna be doing more of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
The way this works is that you're training Resolve.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
put an XP in Resolve.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
done.
What do you do? Do you just spend more time reading, or
Yeah, but I mean,
practicing throwing fireballs?
yeah, a bit of both, I guess. Newfound power. Yeah, just went out into the courtyard and started chucking fireballs.
Is it like the scene in Spider-Man where Tobey Maguire starts essentially throwing webs out of his hand
Yeah,
on the roof,
essentially that.
but with more fire extinguishers?
Yes.
Location reading the D&D wizard class.
And less adolescent subtext.
Oh wait, what am I saying? I was saying that I don't have things to do in downtime, but there is because I've got harm that I should be reducing.
Oh yes, that would be
I should
good.
be recovering. Yes. I think I could go to. Maybe we'll just go to Amitabh because my doctor friend is probably busy. Being in university and all. Like.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to check in on Miraz and Johannes anyway. So I think I was going to say I'm also planning on spending my coin on just recovering from the wound that Vickers doesn't even realize she has. But so
It's a quick scene at Amitabh's then.
yeah,
Sure.
I don't even think it needs to be a scene necessarily. I think Vickers will bring, like, he's my good friend, and I think probably it is the case that Abbas introduced me to this man. But I think if I may establish a thing about Abbas and Amitabh's relationship, I think it would be very funny if the reason he's not your friend is that you two disagree on some like obscure point about philosophy. Where it's like, so I get along with him perfectly fine, but you have some. I don't think it's bad spirited, right? But I think it would be very funny if Amitabh and Abbas like disagree about some point about traditional medicine.
But then why am I going to him now then?
Well, like I said, I don't think it's bad spirited. I just think it's it's like some minor trivial point where like he's still a traditional doctor. You still respect him, but there is this like one niggling point.
Also, he is literally saving your nephew's life.
Yeah. So maybe your relationship with him is improving, but I think maybe even this is not from Abbas to Amitabh. Maybe in fact Abbas has nothing against Amitabh, but Amitabh is really annoyed with Abbas.
That could be it.
Yeah,
I like that. I think Abbas is even like completely like oblivious to the fact that Amitabh doesn't really like him that much.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's funny. But Amitabh has some like, that guy's bullshit preaching gets on my nerves.
I think Abbas is exactly the kind of patient who will go in to see a doctor and start telling the doctor what to do rather than letting them work.
Yeah. And like,
what are you, imbecile? What are you doing? Clearly, you put that there and no.
You're using this brand balm? No.
Yeah.
Look, I brought my own.
And like he will still do it because he's a professional, but he'll be very annoyed. Yeah. Okay. I don't think we need to have much more of a scene. I just want to establish that because I think it's fun.
Okay.
So I'm going to roll a recovery roll for Vickers. It's tier +1. I'm spending a coin. I'm spending a second coin to do that again because screw having injuries. So this is where my actual coin goes. I'm spending my entire, all the money I made from my score to heal. And I just barely manage.
Yeah, I mean, the first one was a 5 and the second was a 3, so...
Yes. Yeah. The funny thing is, Vickers doesn't even know that she has an injury because it was like a soul injury and she has no attune, so she has no idea that this happened. But of course she's going to go to Amitabh anyway because, she feels a little out of sorts and can't put her finger on it. And that's why she goes to him anyway regularly, so... Yeah, I reduce my soul harm to level 1.
Alright, so we're rolling tier +1.
Do either of you check in on Miraz?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I'm so curious.
Of course
to
we
see
do. I
this,
think.
Yeah, I think Miraz is just kind of like sleeping and like just lying in bed, and I think only someone who's like really paying attention would notice that his lips are moving very, very slightly, like he seems to be muttering something.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone like really, really leans in, they'll realize that he's muttering over and over the recipe for spam biryani.
Amazing.
Great.
Does he seem happy while doing it?
No.
What a shame.
I have downgraded my wound, but I have noted it as a level 1 harm, spiritually discombobulated now.
Excellent.
Cool. Can we take a quick break now?
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, I think it's a good time.
And so blows out our brief candle. I named the disciples of the ceaseless temple thus, with both their given names and taken. Soumithri, called Tree. Zoheb, called Klow. Prince, Emma. And Aadiyat, called Soap. Intro music, Jalandhar by Kevin MacLeod. Outro music in Kiravani Ragam by Srinivas. Blades in the Dark by John Harper and Evil Hat Productions. Iruvian Playbooks by Johnstone Metzger. Follow us at Desperate Attune on Twitter or email us at desperateattune@gmail.com. Support us at ko-fi.com/desperateattune.
On the next episode of Desperate Attune.
Oh, perfect! Yes, okay. Now, that's how we're doing the committee meeting, obviously. We're having this meeting in the ghost field so that we can accurately interpret the will of our god through mystic spiritual bullshit. We're having a dreamscape score, everyone.
Excellent.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Everyone shows up, they're invited to join hands and in the Sanctum Sanctorum. And we shall astral project.
Yeah.
Yes.
Big wink.
Yeah, no, but I think I like the idea of this being in the ghost field because it does also, like, we are still a weird cult. We're not like, an everyday housing association. So it does make a ton of sense that our committee meetings are not just like a boring vote on something, but actually has like spiritual power behind it.
Yeah. It's very spiritual and very eldritch, and at the same time we are going to be talking about exactly those things that a housing association will talk about.
Yes.
Eldritch
exactly.
Housing Association, guys. It's fine. It's very normal.
Yes.
I mean, essentially, like when you strip away, this is essentially a Zoom call via,
Yeah, the ghost field.
occult, via the ghost field.
Yes, without the snake avatar now, so now we're communicating directly with some sort of eldritch burning wheel from before time.
Yes.
And asking it what kind of renovation it wants to do.